So you want me to look at you or look at the camera?
Look at me, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, great to see you. This is Joe Tuman, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice to see you, Zenny.
Yeah. Your thoughts on today?
Well, I think this event at City Hall is a wonderful thing to do. It shows, as one more city does this in a major metropolitan area, it's demonstrating support. That I think that even though the Supreme Court is supposed to operate in ignorance of these things, they're human beings, they see news reports, it's obvious that there's a very large amount of support for marriage equality and for treating people the same. And if we can't lobby the court in court ourselves, we can certainly symbolically demonstrate our support for treating people the same in demonstrations like we saw today by putting the flag on top of City Hall. I think it's a great thing to do.
Now, is it that we have come this way? I asked the mayor the same question because in part of internet culture, in other words, we see other people making their statements, we hear about suicides and hate crimes more often, so we say we don't want that. Is that what's pushing this as well, do you think? Or
you mean to put the flag up or to challenge the...
I mean, in terms of how we've changed so dramatically, what role do you think internet culture has had in that?
I think internet culture and mediated communication in general, and the sort of, I don't want to say since I work in television, the death of television and radio and traditional print media. I won't say the death, the transformation of it.
Right. Yeah.
To have itself incorporated within new media has meant that there's more imagery and more discussion and more interactive discussion, which you didn't get with the old forms of media, about prominent social issues, and this is obviously one of them. I think the statistics that guesstimate the number of gay and lesbian people or transgendered or whatever in this country probably underestimates the size of that population. And the internet has sort of reminded us of all of this. And I was saying to someone just a few minutes ago that one of the things that I think is
Heck, you could ask me. I probably dated every lesbian girl in Oakland.
Pardon me?
You could ask me. I probably dated every lesbian girl in Oakland.
I think one of the things that's changed is that this is now becoming a personal issue, not just for LGBTQ people, but also for straight people, in a way that was similar to civil rights or to the Vietnam War. Once other people began to see how this affected people that they knew, their resistance to change softened. When American middle-class voters saw all those body bags and coffins coming back from Vietnam and saw that those were our sons, our fathers, our brothers, it was, they related to somebody in your neighborhood, it changed people's attitudes. When the AIDS crisis reached its peak and it had been a gay disease, and suddenly people realized, no, it's affecting everybody, it's a human condition, their resistance to this softened. Maybe not for the right reasons. They should have been against it when it was also affecting the gay population, but the fact is, when something becomes personal, then people begin to understand it's part of a human condition. And I don't think there's any question that mediated communication has sort of spread that message and also helped to make it personal in a lot of ways. My hope for the court right now, which really has to do a transformation of its own in how they treat gay and lesbian people, moving them from what we call a quasi-suspect class, meaning that if there's discrimination against them, there's a lesser standard of review that the court would use than if they were people of a certain race or ethnicity or religious background. That's a higher standard of review. The trick for the court right now, if they're going to rule against Prop 8, is to finally see lesbian and gay people in the same category for discrimination purposes as they look at race or gender or religion or others. And in the past, they've been very reluctant to do that. For those forms of discrimination against race, for example, the court imposes what's called a strict scrutiny standard of review, which means a very, very hard test for government, if government's doing the discriminating, to get around. And usually those kinds of discrimination are determined to be illegal. If it's quasi-suspect, which is where LGBTQ people are stuck right now, then the standard for review on the part of the court is what's called rational basis, which means any old reasonable justification, like, oh, it's tradition or it's history, might suffice. And of course, I think those of us who live in this community, surrounded by our friends, our family who are LGBTQ, know that that's just a bunk argument. It should be the same standard of review, strict scrutiny. You should not discriminate against people on the basis of sexuality any more than you should on the basis of their gender or religious preference or whatever. And there are 4 votes to support that position today on the court. The question is, will they get a 5th? The swing vote, obviously, I think everyone knows, is Justice Kennedy. He's given signals in the past. Justice Roberts is also an open question mark for me as I'm watching the court. If this is going to go our way, and I'm going to say that as a straight ally of this community, I think it'll be a 5-4 in our favor or a 6-3. It would be my guess at this point, but we'll see. I'm hopeful that as I said, they're not supposed to be influenced by what's happening outside the courthouse, but as they see a loving demonstration from the public of support for this, that they'll hopefully follow their instincts on this as well, because they have the discretion to change this. All they have to do is flip the switch and say suspect class, and there's no way that Prop 8 would be defended if it was met with a strict scrutiny standard of review.
One last question.
Yeah.
You run for mayor?
Will I run for mayor? I'm exploring my options for 2014, and it's possible. Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.